Aaron said it so well, but this sport is so special. No other races have people hanging out afterwards. Like in Austin, the awesome food hall was so cool. I've done so many open water races and relays where you're kind of just like hanging out with your team and you're not really mingling with other teams. So that's really special. And yeah, everyone's so kind. The shakeouts the day before are really awesome too, just to ask questions. And you might have a question about gear. Everyone is willing to help, which I was really astonished by. It's not like gnarly, competitive, aggressive energy. And yeah, we just all want everyone to come to the start line, come try it and see this sport, and let's cross it together and win all together.
And you can tell that the personality and the attitude that comes out of the athletes in a good way when, at the end, you see a group of like 6 or 8 people that have finished, and we're at the finish and we're like, what's going on here? You guys are a huge group of people. And they're like, well, we're doing great, but then these guys were struggling. So we decided to kind of stay with them and talk to them and get them through the race. And then, next group sees, hey, a little party's starting on the course. So we're going to join in with them.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
And I'm Chris, and this is episode 269 of the show.
Nice.
We're wrapping up Partners Month with an epic met up right before the race story of Team Poppy and Branch, aka Anna Carlton and Aaron Palian. Now, if these names sound familiar.
Sounds familiar to me.
Does it sound familiar, Chipper? Because Aaron is a race director at Ötillö USA, and Hannah is the newest employee who's running social media for him. We met her back in Austin, and on this conversation, we chatted about a lot of stuff because not only they work for Ötillö, they did their first swim run together, basically meeting on race morning at Mackinac 2024. So in this conversation, we talk about that, what it's like to meet up on race morning, and then basically take on a swim run like right after, what the near future holds for Ötillö, and so much more. This is a great conversation, honestly. Like, I think this Partners Month,
we did pretty good.
I think it's been strong. So I think we're ending it on a great note.
Yeah, we've done blood relation, city relation, no relation, meet right before, everything. It was great. And yeah, Aaron has been putting on swim runs for 4, 5, 6 years now plus. And now to be on the other side of it was really cool. And then Hannah's been really awesome. I hung out with her a little bit in Austin when Chris and Viv were racing around the course. I was driving her and the Ötillö media crew around. We were the media team, so it was really cool to hang out with her, but it awesome to hear their story of the day in Mackinac.
Yeah.
There to finish off Partners Month.
It's good stuff. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're listening to this, leave a review. 5 stars helps. We want more people to discover the sport. If this is the year of Swimrun, we got to expand our little corner of the internet here.
That is true.
And very excited to say that segments are back, people. No one has emailed us saying that they missed the segments. But
they're just keeping it to themselves, I think.
But segments are back. So first off, we have a new segment. So Chipper.
Yes, I'll take it away.
Yeah.
This is an idea that I had. We post on Strava a lot, and we get questions like, oh, when do you use the pull buoy and paddles, and about different workouts and things. So I thought, hey, what about a workout of the week type thing? So I requested permission from Coach Liz, who's coaching me. And I was like, the idea for the segment is I pick one of my workouts from the previous week, or Chris can contribute as well, of course, and talk through hey, here's how I was feeling going into it. Here's the workout. Here's kind of the specifics. And then after how I felt the workout went, and I'll try to mix swim and run in there, but I felt like it might be interesting. So give us feedback if you like it or not. Let us know. But for
all
this,
right, what's the workout, Chipper?
I still have my swim printout from my bag, but this is about a 4K swim. And we've done these before where the main set is kind of this pattern, but you sort of cut down the pattern. So there is a warm up on here. So 400 warm up. Then some kicking. So 8x25s kick. Could be with fins. Maybe you'll do a kick drill. I kind of mix these things up in there. And then some 4x100 free swim. So I know you've been using the fins. This calls for fins as well. I like the fins because I really feel like you're getting that extra extension and kind of glide out. You also go really fast. and your form score is always way higher. Fins, I noticed. So you're kind of going. So yeah, you have a 25 fast, and then a fast turn, and then the rest of the 100 there. But using the fins to really get on top of the water there, and that's to really kind of get you set up for this main set. So the pattern is you do a block of like endurance with pull paddles, then you go on a 4x insert swim distance here on a set interval, which that for me was kind of like a tempo-y pace on the interval. And then you do 450s fast on a tight interval as well, and then 100 cool down. Then you do that and you kind of cut it down. So the first one was a 400 pull paddle. Mine was on 545. That could be on whatever, but that was very much zone 2. So I like this. Got the gear on, practicing endurance. Kind of in my head, I'm thinking, hey, how can I kind of stay long here, keep some of the feel that I was getting from the fins, because I feel like I'm able to get kind of that longer stretched feeling with the fins there. Then take the gear off, 4x100 on the 130. That left me, I was probably getting maybe like 10 seconds rest on those, but that was kind of that tempo swimming. So the heart rate was kind of getting up there, and then right into 450s on the 50. So these paces are just only for me. You're faster, you're slower, you do it at your own thing, but this is just what I was doing. So you kind of have endurance, tempo, fast, and then you do a 100 easy. I always, for the easy, I throw a pull buoy in, kind of go nice and easy, focus on getting my heart rate down, then on to the next round. So the 450s and the 100 easy are set for each of the rounds, but this one only had a 300 pull paddle and then 4x75s. The next set's a 200 pull and then 4x50s into the 4x50 fast and then the 100. And finally, the last one's a 100 pull and then 425s on the 30, which is, again, the 4x100, 75, 50. I was averaging about 10 seconds rest on those. So not a ton of like recovery time, and then right into the really fast stuff. So your heart rate doesn't get that much of a chance to come down. When I was doing this, I wasn't feeling as fast as I would like on the fast stuff, but overall a good set. Kind of reminds me of some of the stuff that we used to do with like the Mamba style, or like you kind of repeat the main section over, and then 200 warm down, however you refer to it. But that was my Wednesday swim from last week. Felt pretty good. I had a kind of a bigger running day before, so this was a nice one, and like a track workout in the pool kind of thing. But yeah, definitely a solid swim workout that I feel like is a good one to build off of getting ready for Catalina here that we have coming.
Yeah, and as Chipper mentioned, I think we're trying to inspire people with potential workouts that you can try, workout of the week style. And certainly if you didn't catch everything that Chipper was saying, I think what he's really trying to say is like mixing speed, mixing distances, using gear, making sure that you're doing the things that swim runners need to do, which is swim with pull buoys and paddles, and while still working on your speed, technique, and everything else that's just going to make you a good swimmer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the main set had 1,000 total yards of pull paddle, which is good. And then, yeah, like Chris said, the fast stuff, which I feel like kind of comes into play, those heart rate spikes when you first get in the water. Maybe you take it out a little bit hard, or you're trying to get on some feet in front of you of a different team. So you're using sorts of the same motions that you would use during the race.
Right. Yeah. And if you're a beginner and you're like, oh my God, Chipper, you're just like, this is like
too much.
Way too
Did
much.
I went too crazy on the
I think it was a little much. What I would say if you're a beginner is like, you might think is like, I just need to be able to swim 1,000 yards. So you might think like, oh, I'm just going to go in the pool and try to swim 1,000 straight. That's actually not going to help you. If you want to swim 1,000 straight, go to open water. That's a great time to do your long zone 2 swims and just like be in the element. The pool is to do work. The pool, you want to develop gears, whatever that means for you. For Chipper, that means knowing exactly what like a level 2, level 3, whatever feels like. For you, it could just be like, I'm just going to go a little bit harder. I'm going to go a little bit slower. Like, it doesn't have to be that sophisticated. I think like if you're a beginner, it's really just about like you would a track workout, right? You can't just run your 400s the same way you do the 800s or everything else. Like you want to like mix speed so you kind of develop some of these gears, which will help you in a race to the point where, you know, when Chipper and I were in world championship shape, we could go into the swim and be like, oh, I'm going to go this like 85% or 90%. And I know exactly what that means, which can be really helpful if you're like, actually, dude, I can only do 70 for this one or
like,
whatever.
Oh, I need to go endurance. And that's a great point on the simplification of it. Yes, we've been doing a lot of training and we know our paces and zones and stuff. You very easily could go, okay, 400 is going to be easy pace or endurance pace. Like, what can you go all day? Then easy, middle, fast. You could break it down and simplify it that way and make sure you're getting variance throughout your swim workout, because that will kind of start to develop those gears that Chris is talking about. And the longer you develop those, the easier it is to kind of understand where they are and how they shift over the training cycle and all that sort of stuff. But
Yeah, for sure.
workout of the week.
There you go. New segment.
Easier one
everybody.
next time. And a run. I'll get a run in there.
Yeah. So yeah, I think with that, don't forget to sign up for Catalina, people. Use the code LTZB10, save you a cool 10% off of registration for any Ötillö USA event.
Yep.
Catalina's coming up. We hope to see everyone there. Registration is going great. So if you're thinking it's like, I'll just wait to see what happens in the next couple weeks, don't sleep on it, people.
Absolutely. And something new that they have morning of ferries. So you can go to and fro. You don't have to stay the night on Catalina Island. You can just come over from the mainland in the morning, which is really great because that saves you a hotel night worth of cost, at least one. So that's really awesome. And yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing everybody there. And as Chris teased out a little bit last week, we have some upcoming course preview episodes with the one and only Lars van Nonger coming up in the next coming weeks. So more Ötillö Catalina content coming your way.
Yep. Everything you need to assuage your anxiety and feel race ready on race morning.
Yes. Speaking about getting ready, let's get ready and pass on over to our conversation with Team Poppy and Branch. Poppy's Hannah, just in case you're wondering. Branch is Aaron.
And if you don't know what this means, check out Trolls.
Check out the
Trolls
Trolls
2.
movies.
Trolls World Tour. There's a bunch.
There's one, Justin Timberlake's in it.
He's Branch.
Poppy is Anna Kendrick?
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think so. I think you're right.
Anna Kendrick. Trolls. Poppy and Branch met before the swim run, did the swim run. Let's get into it.
All right. Well, Partners Month continues. We're very excited to welcome to the show first-time guest, Hannah Carlton, and returning guest, Aaron Palian, both from Ötillö, both raced their first swim run at last year's wonderful Mackinac Island. But before we get to all that, welcome to the show.
Woo, happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure. So Hannah, let's start with you. So relatively new to Swimrun. You're now officially Ötillö USA's social media content person. So happy that you're doing that.
Doing a bang up job, by the way.
Yeah, it's been amazing so far. But yeah, tell us a little bit about your sort of endurance background. I understand you have a swimming background, but how did Swimrun kind of show up on your radar?
Yeah, so I grew up a competitive swimmer all my life. I swam for Loyola Marymount University in college. Butterfly specifically was my race. And then got into running in COVID, got into some triathlons. And then I met Lars about a year and a half ago, and I always saw him posting about Swimrun. And he always would tell me, hey, come check out a race, come check out a race. And then in August, he called me up. I really didn't know much about the race or the sport, and he knew I was a swimmer. Lars knew I could handle, the technical part and the endurance. We followed each other on Strava, so I think he saw that I was still working out. And then asked if I'd want to come out to Mackinac to race with Aaron, the other race director. And I said yes without knowing anything I would get into. So that was kind of the start of it in August of 2024. So still pretty new and learning a lot about it. But mostly swimmer for me. So I'm very excited to get more into this sport and all the adventure and traveling that comes with it and all the epic places.
Oh,
nice. Great sales pitch as well.
Woo!
And Aaron, you certainly know a thing or two about Swimrun. You've been obviously supporting Ötillö on the operations, race directing side, behind the scenes. If you've ever checked in to get your packet pickup, Aaron's been the man to help you do that. But how did it come about to go from sort of behind the scenes to going on course. I can imagine Lars and the guys are giving you a heap of shit about it, but would like to hear the story.
I mean, to put it real simple, Lars made me do it.
Okay.
I would just assume rather, pack a pickup and then take photos the morning of the race, like most of you guys see me out there doing. I had a goal to lose a bunch of weight, and then Lars had the bright idea of basically strong arming me into doing it. I've done a lot of tries as an athlete and runs and stuff like that, but swimming, like for most triathletes, is the weakness. I have to work twice as hard to even get, like, on Hannah's worst day, would be my absolute best dream. So yeah, I kind of just avoided it. I mean, you kind of know what a little bit of it's like from endurance sports in general, but until you put it together, it's a whole different animal. And so, yeah, Lars was the one that gave me the most shit. Everyone else kind of just fell in behind him when he did it. But yeah, he just kept bugging me. Plus, Mackinac is the one that I would want to do if I did one. So I just figured
Yeah.
it all came together and that.
Awesome. And yeah, absolutely incredible fitness journey for yourself. I know Lars has thrown a number out there, but you give us the reason sort of behind your getting back into shape, but you look incredibly fit, and yeah,
Great.
congrats, man.
Yeah. It was like maybe about 70 pounds since last February to then. And it was just, I've kind of roller coastered my whole life. I love food and have kind of the obsessed personality when it comes to eating, just eat all the time. So anyway, I just decided for family and because I hate being overweight, no other reason other than that. So lose. And it being in Michigan, you guys are always warm where you're at, but like anyone up in the north, and I think Lars has forgotten about this living in Texas, and you kind of hibernate every off season and tack on some pounds around the holidays more so than the southern states. And so even now I've got probably 15 I got to lose by summer here, but yeah, it was great. And, I'm glad to have done it. Fun times.
Cool.
Yeah, I think this is helpful for swim run teams that might be meeting up at a race for the first time. Like, what was the conversation between you guys going into this race? Obviously, Aaron, even though you've never done a swim run, like you've seen so much of this stuff that certainly you had some sort of experience, whether it's, book knowledge versus like actual knowledge. Like, how did you and Hannah sort of discuss, who was going to lead the swims? Probably Hannah. And like,
Yeah.
how are you going to think about transitions and things like that?
You want to take that, Hannah? It's like a 3-word or 2-word thing, right?
Oh,
We didn't.
well, I feel really lucky that I got to be partnered with the race director because he knew the whole course and would be like, okay, this run is 2 miles and we got an uphill here and you turn here. So I got so lucky I didn't have to look at the course map, which I think a lot of swim runners might be a little intimidated by that. But I will say all the courses and transitions, like everything's marked so clearly. So it was a lot easier to follow. But going into it, our strategy definitely was have fun and do it. And the swims, we always would take a minute to get situated. That was definitely a big learning for us, like coming into out of the water, especially with the rocks. So we like took that slow. And then Aaron was a stud on all the trail runs. So I had to keep up with him. So swims, we were going hard, and then right into the runs.
So I'll say she's being very nice there.
I figured.
So first of all, there was no discussion prior. I think the first time we met was the day before. And
Yeah.
then
And you were so busy too.
yeah. And we spent a minute laying on the floor in a
Oh, yeah.
hotel, like trying to figure out how long the cord should be. And
Yeah.
so I think it was Trista had us lay down on our stomachs and measure it out. And that was maybe 10 minutes before dinner. And then we went to dinner, all of us, there was like 10 of us or whatever. And we talked about strategy for all of about 30 seconds. I think race morning, we talked about it the most, like on the dock there, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's what she said. It was like, I knew I would be strong in the runs and she would be strong in the swims, but the whole getting in and out of the water, she was fine. She was ready to go. I was bumbling it. In fact, I couldn't, I had no sense of awareness and my balance was completely off getting out of the water, which I'd never, in all my time swimming, I've never experienced that. Maybe some vertigo, whatever that was. I don't even know.
Need earplugs, man. We wearing
Well, I didn't even expect it because I've swam so much. I just never thought I'd experience that. But yeah, she was a rock star in the water. I will say though, like Lars gave me this false sense of, hey, you're a decent swimmer. She's really good. You can kind of pull her along in the run if need be, but she can pull you through the whole swim. I weigh still like 30, 40 more pounds than her, whatever it is. Okay. And then on top of that, I have size 13 feet. So they were anchors in the water. It doesn't matter how fast she was swimming. I made her swim my pace, even if I didn't want to.
The shoulders were burning.
We gained nothing.
Aaron, you should have made him rudders. You should have made him like rudders.
We gained nothing in the water from her being a fast swimmer. Nothing whatsoever. So I got tangled up in the rope a whole bunch of times.
Yes.
So I have to tell you that because she never will. And
so it sounds like a lot of things that first time swim runners tackle happen to you all. I mean, certainly I remember Chris's eyes first race, we're like, yeah, we're going to use the tether. It'll be great. And then like about a minute before the race, we're like, oh, we'll just do it next time. And we just didn't even race with the tether.
Totally chickened out.
So,
even for the
certainly,
swim, you guys didn't use it?
No,
like at all? Oh, wow.
We didn't even bring it, I don't think. Because there was actual Swedes and I think they intimidated us pretty heavily down in San Diego. We're like, oh man, these people are serious.
Though had we not used the tether, because she would have got out every swim 15, 20 minutes ahead of us.
Like, where's
Awesome. And then Hannah, yeah, of course, you don't need to write down any of the distances on your paddles when you literally have the man who made the map in leading you. So that's a nice, mental piece you don't have to worry about. Just towing them along in the water is really all you have to be focused on.
That was huge. Yeah, that was very, very helpful. And I also want to give a shout out to Trista. She was a huge help. It took a village because all I really knew was, okay, have cap goggles and shoes that I drill holes in? Question mark. And Aaron's wife also let me borrow her wetsuit. Trista gave me her paddles. Like everyone came together to give me gear. So that was a cool part, seeing the community and how much everyone cares about each other. And Trista really walked me through everything of, put your goos and gels here and make sure you have this. So that was nice to hear it from, all the experts.
Yeah, so just for folks who don't know, we're talking about Trista Menon, who is just a super experienced swim runner, great ambassador for the sport. And if you search Team Adorkables on your low tide, but wherever you listen to this or watch this on YouTube, you can find some content with her amazing insight.
And I'll say, something from the logistics or race director standpoint, whatever you want to call me. At the end of the day, we struggle every day trying to get new people into the sport for whatever reason. I mean, there's a lot of them, right? From triathletes who can't swim, who can't even imagine having fun swimming, running only and getting a bike. And then, runners that don't want to swim or swimmers that hate running more than anything. We want to get all these people in because we have all of those walks of life that do the sport and make up the sport. And we know that once they come over, they're like, oh my God, that wasn't bad. That was awesome. And, it's totally different than I thought and it's relaxed. So what I will say is that we had no prep going in. I mean, I'm sure Hannah works out all the time or whatever. I was losing that weight. I did just basic runs and just overall yardage or meters in the pool just to get some endurance up. And we did it. And we did fine. I think we finished right kind of in the middle of the whole pack. Now, so if there's anyone out there listening saying, oh my God, there's so much involved in all of this, the most involved is the equipment, if you even make it that way. But as far as the training, I mean, you can make it as detailed or not detailed as you want. Just get some time in your shoes, get some time in the water and relax. Don't be that type A stressed out person out there. You're going to have a blast and it'll be fine. So anyone can do this. And we didn't even jump in on the sprinter experience side. We did World Series. And to be clear, I had not run more than 7 miles leading up to this, only twice, and had not swam more than 1,800 meters at a time, swimming 2 or 3 times a week. And we still did it just fine. And the recovery at the end, guys, is nothing like you would ever think. You finish a marathon or an Ironman or something like that, and you're so sore you can barely walk. But with this, no soreness whatsoever.
Well said. Yeah, I totally agree.
Great
Sign up
pitch.
for it. For all the newbies, do it. You won't regret it. It's such an epic day. There's no other race like it where you get to transition so much. So after 3 miles of a run, you're like, okay, we're almost over. And then you get to swim. And like, it's so fun that it changes up so quickly. And I love everything that Aaron said. So I totally agree. And it's doable, even if you just meet your partner that day.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hannah, you're on sort of behind the camera or behind the social feed. We hung out at Ötillö Austin going around, and Aaron was in the truck as well. How has kind of your swim run experience actually doing the swim run, how has that changed how you've or adjusted how you're doing the social aspect of it now that you have kind of the real life experience? How do you put that onto what people are seeing on Instagram?
Totally. I am so thankful I got to experience it and then jump into the socials. And I think it's such a cool sport that it's not like you're running in a track circle. Like it's so unique. You're jumping over rocks and coming through cool trails and trees. So capturing that adventure aspect is something that really excites me about this year. I'm hoping we can get some really cool videos and drone footage, and we have such amazing photographers who already capture the experience so well. And I think we love seeing the transitions, getting out of the water, seeing people's faces, and a lot of them are stoked. At Austin, we got, some cool shots of them rock climbing. It's such a unique race where there's such a adventure aspect to it that I want to show my friends to get them stoked, because a lot of my friends are triathletes or do the city marathons, but there's really nothing like swim run. You're not as focused just on your time and pace, because it's almost an obstacle course too, and just such an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, I love that. I think, obviously having done one, Hannah, can't I mean, we talk about it all the time that if we can just get people to the start line and they do one or two transitions,
Hmm.
like the rest kind of takes care of, they show up with the right headspace. Like if they're,
Yeah.
they're not delusional, but if you show up with sort of like an open mind, sort of growth
Yeah.
mindset type stuff, and you have a one or two transitions, like that's what's really unlocks sort of like the magic of the sport. And I'm curious for you and for Aaron, if that's sort of how you felt as well, like just those first two transitions, you're like, look at us, look at this ridiculous thing that we're doing. And isn't it great?
Yes. I totally remember our first swim. The sunrise was so cool in Mackinac. And that was just such a beautiful moment. And you're just kind of in awe. Like, this is awesome. And everyone also was super kind. Like, no one's like pushing you to the side. I've been at the start of a lot of swim races where you're just like on top of each other. So it's not that, which is great. I like that it starts with the run. So you're kind of like, you breathe through it and then get into the swim. So I think that was a cool point. Aaron, do you want to share anything?
So I felt like, well, Mackinac is kind of unique in the way that you never, and most people won't say they have anxiety necessarily about swims where it's dark and you can't see under you and all that.
Mhm.
In general, I think as humans, we have a little bit of anxiety when we can't see the bottom of where we're swimming, or if
Yeah.
it's an ocean, you wonder, this and that. But with Mackinac, it's unique in the way that it's crystal clear Caribbean kind of water. You
Hmm.
can see all the way down. You can stand up and be chest high almost any of the time. There might have been maybe a total of 20 meters the entire time that we couldn't touch. Not
Hmm.
to mention the water's nice and cool. It's too cool or not too cold, but
Hmm.
cold enough where you almost feel like it's just that little bit of relief you get after the
Yeah.
run that on your legs. I'll say that beyond that, when you get out of the swim, something that I didn't believe. My wife told me this. She did Austin a couple of years prior. It was her first one, and she trained like less than I did, right? And she did a long one with Kim, and she told me afterwards, she's like, I got out and I had done 2 or 3 runs previous in the race, and I thought, okay, this is going to start adding up. My legs are really going to hurt. Like, it's going to
Hmm.
feel like I've run a half marathon by like the fifth leg or whatever. I didn't once, with the exception of maybe the last run, the last half mile, because we were pushing hard. I didn't once feel like the mileage had compounded and added up through the
Mhm.
race. I actually felt like it was a restart every time I got in the water for the
Hmm.
swim and every time I got out and started running, a little bit of vertigo aside or whatever that was.
Hmm.
And I felt like it was a restart on every single leg, which enables you to pretty much go forever. I felt like had we not pushed that last run, we probably could have done 2 or 3 more legs pretty easily. you know?
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people feel that way. It's all dependent on how fast you push, like anything else. I mean, push harder, you might feel it more, but I thought that was one of the most unique and cool things about the race. I could tell beginners to entice them to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, and we try to highlight that a lot. But I'm glad you're chatting about it again, Aaron. I think people look at, oh man, this race has 13, like a half marathon of running and 5K of swimming. I can't run a half marathon on its own, and it's really not about in your training going out and running 13 whatever miles in one go. It's, hey, can you run a mile and a half? And
Mhm.
then can you run 2 miles? And can you run a half a mile? And then can you run 3 miles
Yeah.
singularly? And that's
Yeah.
It's okay to
really
walk.
makes it a lot more approachable. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
Or
like
walk
what's
it.
the
Yeah.
longest or like what's the longest leg of the race, right? If the longest leg of the race is like, let's say it's like 6 miles, like make sure you can run a 10K,
Well,
maybe
and
make sure you can run a couple 10Ks.
that's what Lars said to me. It was the best advice he gave me. And I rolled my eyes when he said it, but it could not be more true. He said, look, Mackinac, I think the running, if I remember right, it's like 16 to 17 total miles of running. But none of the legs are even close to a 10K. And I was running 10K fast for training. And he said, you're fine as long as you can run a 10K. And it could not be more true. And you said a half marathon, but for people that aren't running more than a 10K or just over and are like, oh, I don't know if I can do, Casco Bay that's got, 20 something miles of running or whatever it is. You absolutely can. It does
Mhm.
feel like a restart on every leg of that. It's great.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's so great to hear that because again, that's something that we tell people all the time. So it's nice to get some third party. It isn't just us like shouting into the echo chamber here for ourselves. Now, I'm curious. So you guys did a swim run afterwards. Did you guys have any debrief? Any sort of, you know, any thoughts on teaming up again to do another swim run in the future, or kind of what was the vibes? Not just for you guys as a team, but I guess overall, like, what did you experience at the finish line when you crossed it? Like, what was kind of the vibe going on there?
Oh my gosh, it was so fun crossing the finish line. I think we got champagne poured on us too, so I remember feeling sweaty and
Wow.
sticky.
That was not champagne.
Oh,
JR
blue,
bought Blue Boone's Farm, like
some nasty thing.
$3 box. He did it on purpose just to be gross. It was so
Yeah.
nasty.
So that's ingrained in my memory. No, it was such a fun finish, and Aaron really kept me going on the runs, and yeah, just a great feeling to cross that finish line. We were super, super stoked. And then he had a lot of work to do, obviously, to tear everything down. So then we kind of went into work mode, and I went back on the socials. Trista and Lars were helping a lot too. But we do have plans to come back together again. It's just all depending on my work schedule. So that's a little bit up in the air, but I would love to do it again.
Oh, yeah. Ditto on all that stuff. I will say she was talking about the last run though. Oh man, I lied to her so many times. Oh, how much further is it?
Like,
Oh,
Just right
it's
up
like
here.
it's a quarter mile. Let's push. Come on, we got to
we
push
were
really hard.
pushing.
It was like a mile and a half left. Oh no. I thought you said a
Wow.
quarter mile. No, I made a mistake. It's a half mile. And you could tell the gears were turning. She's like, wait, this
It's just
asshole
long.
designed this course. He is outright lying to me.
Yes.
So then she just stopped asking and because she knew it was over when it was over.
Wow, Aaron.
That was
And
a
and
good
after she
trick.
pulled your ass all over for all the swims, that's how you repay her.
Hey, look, I was doing her a favor. I knew she was tired. I wanted to get her to the end as quick as possible.
Exactly.
Aaron,
And it was really
Nice.
fun seeing all of Aaron's family too. I think at our last swim transition, that was a fun boost to energy. So yeah, that was an exciting moment too, just to see them all.
Yeah,
My family
and Mac
actually were all the volunteers for the first 2 years, all of them at the whole race, minus medical. I convinced my family to come up. These days, you can only convince family for so long to do it, but
So
that's
good.
fun.
yeah, it's always great to have friends and loved ones out there. It is like such a surge of energy out there. But I'll pose this question to both of you. You're certainly familiar with the Ötillö circuit in the U.S. Now that you've done your swim run, do any Ötillö races kind of stick out as like, ooh, I really want to do Whistler next, or Orcas, or maybe Catalina? Any ones that piqued your interest now that you have like the swim run experience?
Oh, yeah. Lars is really pushing me to do Casco Bay because I think that one's really swim heavy. And so I really hope I can do that one. And then also Catalina because I live in LA and I'm recruiting some friends to do it, which is really exciting. We're swimming later today. I'm going to give them some lessons, but they actually got to meet Lars and JR at Run Club this last week. So it's really fun that I can now involve my community and friends into this awesome sport and rad community and hopefully just keep it growing. But those two would be really awesome. I mean, I want to do them all. I am hooked and here for it. It just all depends on my work schedule too.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and shout out to JR. He's part of the Ötillö crew. You mentioned him a couple
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
He's the guy who looks like cool. You know, everyone else is a little quirky, but he's like the cool looking one.
He's got
So
the biggest beard.
yeah, he's got the biggest
Yeah.
beard. You know, so I want to ask you guys. So thank you so much for sharing that your experience. But let's transition a little bit and talk about Ötillö USA, right? So we've been saying this year is the year of Swimrun. We're so excited that Catalina's coming back. And certainly, you know, we're trying to get as many teams to the start of these things as possible. I'm curious, kind of like, what are you guys seeing on the ground? How excited are you for this year's events? Catalina in particular, which is coming up here in a few months. Yeah, just curious, kind of like from the Ötillö brass that you guys are, you know, how stoked are you guys for this upcoming swimrun season?
Every year is a fresh start, right? And so you get through by the end of the year, you're like, oh my gosh, last race, we just got to get through this. We get a break and everything, right? So you feel that at the end of every year, and that's happened. And everyone's, I think, kind of had a reset. And bringing Catalina back is starting to push some events to the front of our calendar. And I think we're in a good place. I think all of us can agree that we like more events as long as they're not all piled in 3 months. So, which it kind of seemed like it was going that way. So we're
Yeah.
really excited that Catalina is not only back, but it's in April. And then, so we're looking if we're going to add more events to kind of top load those events onto spring and early summer. That way we can spread them out through the entire year. As far as the excitement level, I think we're really excited. I mean, each year we look to improve not only logistics and the organization, the communication, which is more what I do, but I think the look of the race, the feel of the race, the excitement around it, the people we have on board, we just time redefining everyone's roles because we'd like to have everyone own the role they're in and do an even better job, improve along the way. And so hopefully people recognize that, they see, you know, I know a lot of times behind the scenes, our job as race directors, we see all these little things that happen that no one notices on the outside. That's kind of the running joke for my whole career. Is when I'm done, I'm like, oh my gosh, this, and this. And everyone, what are you talking about, dude? That was great. That's what we see, but we love it. It always turns out great. I will say the athletes that I've experienced, and Hannah, you could probably speak to this with multi-sport experience and it is the most welcoming environment for a race director and a crew to be around swim runners. And it is so laid back. We could not appreciate everything from the appreciation we get, the compliments, the understanding on things. It's awesome. It makes our job great. It makes us keep wanting to come back every year to that community versus, you know, some other sports and some other things. You're ready to pack it in after an event. We look forward to the next event every single time. Great.
Well, Aaron, let me ask you, well, why do you think that is? I mean, I think I know the answer, but you know, this is an interview podcast, so I'm going to ask you, why do you think that is? What do you think it is about swim runners that make them so like open to the experience, or just like less type A around like the aid station being exactly where it's set on the map, or else everyone's going to freak out type thing?
So I think swim runners are born, they're made, right? If you want to say it that way, and they're made out of runners, swimmers, cyclists, triathletes, duathletes, all of which I just said tend to center more around type A personality. Whether you are type A or not, I think those sports make you that way because there's so many components. There's so many things, especially when you involve the bike, that have to go right. And the bike is out of your control to a certain degree, right? So you get very into it and you have to make sure every little thing is perfect. And so that kind of bleeds into everything else you do in multisport. And it's not good or bad. I mean, as a race director, it tends to be on the bad side for us more because if we miss any little thing, then that type A kicks in from people, right? But we've learned that that's what it is, and you have to accommodate. But when you go into swim run, you can't control that. The land and the water dictate the distances. And so there's no 10K this or 5K this or Olympic this. Overall, you try to hit certain distance ranges so that you have some continuity between the events. But we get emails all the time from beginners that are like, well, how much to the exact like foot, so to speak, is this swim or this run? And it's funny because we're as nice as we can be about it, but at some point you got to say, look, you got to just trust us. You're going to lock into our course setting, and it's going to be there. If you're looking for what we set, you're going to have a great race. Once you're into the course, just follow the flags, follow this or that. I think it takes that first race for them to let, and once they let go and they trust us, I think that the aid stations just kind of being where they are. And sometimes there's one person there or 10 people, or God forbid, nobody there. And you have to serve yourself this stuff. We're going to always have it out there for you. But when you get there, it is what it is. You're all adults. And I think forcing that on people in a nice way brings them around to being that trail runner type personality back. It's super kind. It kind of resets the athlete as they come into it, I think, on the same note. It reset me as a race director, for sure. From the standpoint of I wanted to cater to every last little thing I thought everyone would want. And it took a good year or two for me to let go, because Lars was like, dude, you got to stop. You got to stop. And I was like,
And
shut
Lars
up,
is
what are you
so-
talking about?
They're a good balance.
Lars is so
for
on
each-
the other side of it too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he's brought me more
Yeah.
towards center with that and
Yeah.
where I should be now with that. And so it's great. And from a directing standpoint, that's what we see in the athletes. It makes them more enjoyable, and it makes us more enjoyable.
Mm. Yeah.
The bike's the
I'll
problem is
also-
what I hear.
That was really well
The
said.
bike is the problem. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
I mean-
all starts with that machine.
Yeah, I don't like cycling, so swim run's great for me. No, we're so excited for this year, and I really hope we bring in new people, as we're trying to grow our social media. You'll see we're posting more and doing takeovers, and so it's just a fun way to highlight our community, which I'm really excited about. And Aaron said it so well, but this sport is so special. No other races have people hanging out afterwards. Like in Austin, the awesome food hall was so cool. I've done so many open water races and relays where you're kind of just like hanging out with your team and you're not really mingling with other teams. So that's really special. And yeah, everyone's so kind. The shakeouts the day before are really awesome too, just to ask questions. And you might have a question about gear. Everyone is willing to help, which I was really astonished by. It's not like gnarly, competitive, aggressive energy. And yeah, we just all want everyone to come to the start line, come try it and see this sport, and let's cross it together and win all together.
And you can tell that the personality and the attitude that comes out of the athletes in a good way when, at the end, you see a group of like 6 or 8 people that have finished, and we're at the finish and we're like, what's going on here? You guys are a huge group of people. And they're like, well, we're doing great, but then these guys were struggling. So we decided to kind of stay with them and talk to them and get them through the race. And then, next group sees, hey, a little party's starting on the course, so we're going to join in with them. And by the time it's done, you're more than halfway through the race and you see a huge group. You're like, where did this come from? And that's pretty cool. But then I've also had people that have told me, this is a great thing to add to my schedule for the year. They'll pick 1 or 2 races. They'll still do triathlon, but then they come back and they say, well, look, I was getting so into that, and this kind of lightens me up a little bit. It gives me multiple things to look
Yes.
forward to. And,
Yeah. It
Yeah, I think
spices up
that's-
the training. And
Yep.
yeah, the diversity, and you kind of can, step away or try to like undo some of that really like tightly wound type A, like, oh man, is my tires at 120 PSI or are they 118? I'm going to lose watts, baby. And you can kind of start to undo some of that stuff and yeah, just have a better time with it and go with the flow, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's also something to it around like if you're really into triathlon, and certainly Chipper and I had our triathlon phase, right, where we're super into it, like your identity kind of fuses with it. And I think that's what you're talking about, Aaron, where it's like, it becomes this thing where it's like, oh, I'm a triathlete. And if I get a flat, like I failed type of stuff. And I think swim run just kind of like opens you up a little, opens like the aperture up a little bit more, where it's more like, hey, you know what? Like the weather is what it is. The environment is what it is. The course really dictates everything. I mean, we've talked about it for the World Championship a lot. Like, that course is really like the main character of the thing. And then, it's not us. We're just participants or have bit parts. And I think, every swim run is like that because you just don't know what's going to happen. Like Catalina's happening in a few months. Water could be awesome and sunny. It could be rainy and stormy. Like, we don't know. The only thing we know is that, unlike a lot of other sports, it's happening, right? Like it's going to happen. So even that is so different than, there's no swim being canceled.
Well, and the cool thing about the distances not being standard, actually, once you get into it, is that there's no pressure on yourself to, if you do, whether it's a 5K, a half marathon, a triathlon, that's an Olympic or an Ironman, there's always that pressure to PR. And so no matter if you're faster or slower at swim run, unless you're doing the exact same swim run, there's no way you can judge your performance all over the whole year because every race is so different. So it almost forces you to relax and have even more fun.
Yeah.
Yes. The measuring stick has been like snapped in half. And I think part of that comes through as well in the, these groups that you see, or, when we cross the finish line, it's not like, oh, what was your time? Like, how fast did you finish? What was your bike split kind of stuff? It was like, oh, remember that cool run that went through here? It was like, you're reliving the experience of a certain area of the race versus how fast did you do this one, section of the race.
For sure. For sure. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am super stoked for this year.
Yes.
I think goes without saying, but yes.
That wasn't
Me too.
obvious. But if you guys had to pick, like, someone's listening to this and they're like, hey, I can only do one swim run this year, and you got to split the baby. What Ötillö USA race are you recommending to people?
Aaron, you go
You go
first.
Besides Mackinac.
Aaron's like,
Besides
what's
Mackinac?
lightest on Reg?
I've only experienced 2, so I feel like I can't answer it as well.
Fair enough.
Okay. So, you can't recommend one or two. You have to do all of them.
Yes,
but
great answer.
If you did have to choose, okay. So the way I kind of see it after all these years is Austin and Mackinac are great. I don't like to use the word beginner races, but I will to get the point across.
Well, they're approachable. They're more approachable.
Because
Yes.
the thing with Mackinac is the water's safe, right? It's clear and you're all contained. It's a great family environment. You can be experienced and still do it because you just go harder and you still have fun out there. Kind of the same deal with Austin in that regard. Austin's great for the accommodations. There's camping there in the form of bunks that you can rent from us for super cheap. And Lars's parents are out there. His mom's cooking.
Yeah.
It's just, Austin's probably the most convenient of all of them. Orcas is gorgeous but challenging. You've got that big, you got climbs all over the place. Casco Bay is just kind of that original that's the closest to whatever race you're going to do in Europe, especially the World Championships. It's like a mini US version, yes. Whistler's gorgeous. I mean, if we had a race in Alaska, if anybody's been to Alaska and they liked it there, I would say if we had a race that was closest to Whistler, definitely reminds me of like a mini Alaska Man. I used to put on that race. And then I haven't been to Catalina. I've been to California. I've seen the pictures. I can imagine. That's kind of its own thing on the side. But I don't know if that answers the question right, but because I don't
You
know
dodged it.
I did.
That
dodged it.
It was a good dodge. Good
I
dodge.
don't want any race to go away. So, whatever one's lowest in register for that one. So it can be the highest, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point. I think, if I can help you out, Hannah and Sarah, I mean, Hannah and Sarah, what am I even talking about? Whatever race is in your zip area code,
Vicinity,
or
yeah.
in your time zone, in your state, like start
it.
there,
Yeah.
right? Just like
Yeah.
support, like if you live in sort of the Illinois, Michigan kind of region, Indiana, whatever, like Mackinac, let's go. Like, what are we doing? and then yeah, just like branch out from there. Yeah, I would totally co-sign. I think in terms of approachability, Mackinac and Austin are just
Mhm.
perfect for that. Very, very approachable races. And yeah, Casco, as you guys mentioned, it's always will hold a special place in our heart because yeah, like swimming across the Portland Sound. I mean, come on.
Cool. Yeah. I think my final answer would be a push for Catalina because I am in LA. And what's really cool is you can even do it. It's all on the website too, everyone, all the ferry logistics, but you can do it in a day if you're local in LA, take the early morning ferry
Yep.
and then come back at night. So that's really cool. Or if it's a bucket list item, you've never been to Catalina, have a whole weekend out of it. Travel into LA on a Thursday, Friday, stay in Avalon. And yeah, I think that really excites me. I actually have done the Catalina Marathon last year and I'm doing it again this year in March. So it's
Nice.
gnarly. It's a lot of hills, but that's what gets me excited to conquer a huge challenge and cross that finish line. So yeah, my push is for Catalina. Get some signups.
Love it.
And to Hannah's point, even though she did use the B word, bucket list.
I'm not allowed to say that.
Well, well,
You say it all the time.
Okay.
so one of the things though that I will say, and you guys wouldn't even know this probably, but from a registration standpoint and a race director, we want to grow the sport in the US. And so one of the problems I ran into when I put on the extreme tries is everyone wanted to do them, but it takes a long time to plan, to travel, a ton of money. And so you do them one or two times and you're like, oh, I don't have the finances or the mental willpower to get this done anymore. I'm taking a break. And so to your point, Chris, one of the great things about what you said in locally do them is that if I being close to the East Coast, or if I was on the East Coast and I traveled over to Orcas, great event, unforgettable, but that may turn into a bucket list for me because it's so long on the plane from there. And then you got to get on the ferry and do all this other stuff. And so we don't want people that are starting out to essentially burn out because they took on the longest venture possible and think that that's what the race is. It's a ton of money and it's a lot of travel. So I like what you said about local, because if someone lives in Michigan or the tri-state area or down in Oklahoma or Texas or any of the states down there, start out with one of those maybe, because then what you see the sport as is like kind of like your local triathlon or your local marathon or whatever that you do every year. We want people to come back. We don't want this to necessarily be a bucket item. It's such a niche thing to begin with that we're trying to grow here, that we really need people to continuously support it. So I was kidding about the bucket list with you, Hannah, but I just wanted to say that because that is important. We do struggle with that because we see people do it and then not come back. But then we also have people that do 3, 4, or 5 races a year, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah, that's us.
We appreciate you guys. We love
And there are a
it.
ton of people like you guys, actually. I
Yeah.
think more than 50% of our athletes come back and do 3, 4, or 5 races. So that's great. But
Which is
And it's
huge.
so great from a community perspective. It's like, hey, we go in the race. It's like, oh, we get to see all of our friends that we see,
Yeah.
4 times a year. Oh, we get to see the Dirksons and Trista and Amy and, Marcus and everybody. It's really cool to see the same folks over and over and keep living these experiences with them over the years.
Yeah, the same folks over and over, and then always some new people, right? So it's
Yeah.
always like there's always some new people, and we're all, and I think Swimrun's great because it's with the
Like,
shakeouts and everything.
get in here. Yeah.
Come on in, join the clan of the weird.
And part of our strategy for growth, actually, something that Lars always talks about, is that we have our people we know we can count on, whether that means 1 race or 5 races. They're always coming out to events. But those aren't the people we have to necessarily worry about with registration, right? So if we do a new event somewhere, what's going to keep that event from going away, keep it there year after year after year, is going to be that local population from that city or that state or the tri-state area. So, it's really important for us to make sure we're getting those people in that area for the longevity of our sport.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of a better place to stop there. Sign up for races, support your local races. Hannah, Aaron, thank you guys so much for coming on, sharing your first Swimrun experience and sharing the knowledge about what's happening with Ötillö this year. Good stuff.
Oh, you didn't even tell them what's our team name?
Okay, well, at first it was against our will because Lars just put us
You
together.
made it happen.
And I was like,
Okay.
what am I getting into? Who is this guy? And I'm, very positive and bubbly. And then Aaron, no, you tell the story because wasn't it your
That's not
wife's
Aaron?
idea?
No, to keep it short, because I know we're going here, but yeah, so that was the name. And then my wife actually said, you guys remind me of Poppy and Branch from Trolls. And so, and if you have kids or if you just like animated movies, Branch is the very like personality
Yeah.
in the book. And Poppy is that, bubbly personality that's happy and makes everyone happy around her. It balanced very well. I had to bring her back down a few during that race.
And I had to bring him up. Rainbows and
She had to
sunshine.
drag me up from the ground.
Yes.
Well, I guess one last question. Any duets on the course? You guys start singing anything?
We need to get there next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'd love to bring
Aaron's
a
shoulders were
GoPro
singing.
around too. We got some fun content. I think I texted you guys the video of like Lars getting us out of the water too. And then Aaron just like leaves me. He's like, we gotta go. And I was like, okay. Good times. It was awesome.
love
Thank
it.
you guys
It
so
was
much
fun.
for having us. And we
Yeah, this was a
appreciate
blast.
all you guys do for the sport. Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run,
And then a swim,
then another run,
then another swim.
then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of
too.
course, yes.